This is their MO. This is how they operate. We've seen it with Swalwell. You know, they take these women, they compromise candidates. What they've been doing lately, Maria, is trying to get state and locals. So this makes perfect sense that they would go after a state governor, in this case Minnesota, who has become the VP nominee. I find this really disturbing.
And that is the House Foreign Affairs Committee Chairman Michael McCaul with me on Mornings with Maria this week on reports that Minnesota Governor Tim Walz had a secret romantic relationship with the daughter of a Chinese Communist Party official, beginning in 1989 until it ended in 1992. The woman has spoken out about the relationship. Now, a whistleblower has come forward to the House Oversight Committee with internal communications from within the Homeland Security Office, where a DHS official expresses concern about Walz's history with China, warning that Beijing could target him to exert influence on U.S. policy toward the CCP. Joining me now with the very latest on his investigation into Walz's ties to Communist China is the chairman of the House Oversight Committee, James Comer. Mr. Chairman, thanks very much for being here this morning. We so appreciate it.
Good morning, Maria.
Tell us what your investigation is zeroing in on.
Well, we had a whistleblower with the Department of Homeland Security come forward and tell us that the Department of Homeland Security had been monitoring Tim Walz for many years, way prior to Kamala Harris choosing him to be her running mate. They were concerned about the sheer number of times that Walz had been to China. They were concerned about who was actually paying for all those trips to China, considering that if you look at Walz's financial disclosure form, and I believe it to be accurate, he really doesn't have the means to pay for that many trips to China. And they were concerned as why is he going to China so many times? Because all the things that, all the boxes are checked with Tim Walz that the Department of Homeland Security and our intelligence community look for in a potential American official or their family member being groomed or being influenced by the Chinese Communist Party.
So do you think that the CCP targeted Walz years ago, and do you believe that the CCP paid for all of those trips? And we're talking about between, 15 and 30 trips to China, which he has admitted that he's gone back and forth when he was teaching there. Did the CCP pay for those trips?
Well, Walz said he went to China at least 30 times. Of course, he lied about being in China during the Tiananmen Square massacre. So if you take Walz at his word that he's been there at least 30 times, that's a lot of money. I don't know who paid for the trips. And it's very frustrating to me that no one in the corporate media, the mainstream media, ever asked Tim Walz that question. When he was asked about China in one interview, he clammed up and he changed the subject. He didn't answer the question. There are a lot of questions with China. Look, China's our biggest adversary. You know this. You know they manipulate the currency. You know they take American jobs. They use slave labor. They steal our patents. But to have an American official that could be a heartbeat away from the presidency spend that much time in China and speak favorably about China's business model and how they've taken people out of poverty. I mean, every American citizen should be concerned. And here we are 48 hours before Election Day, and there are so many questions about Tim Walz and his relationship with the Chinese Communist Party that are unanswered.
What about this relationship with the daughter of a CCP official? I guess she has spoken out, and there were some questions about whether or not they were together so that she could get a visa, or whether they were in love, or what the story was. But interesting report that he was actually a woman who was the daughter of a CCP official.
Yeah, I don't know anything about that relationship other than what's been reported, but I do know this. The Department of Homeland Security was very concerned about Tim Walz long before Kamala Harris chose him to be her running mate. We need to know why the Department of Homeland Security was concerned about Tim Walz. Was it this relationship? Was it who was financing his trips? Was it things that he had said favorably about the Chinese Communist Party? These are questions that remain unanswered 48 hours before the election. We know that there are documents, classified and unclassified, that the Department of Homeland Security has, according to the whistleblower, pertaining to concerns about Tim Walz. We've asked for these documents, and thus far the Department of Homeland Security under Mayorkas has refused to comply with our request.
Well, you've already impeached Mayorkas. We know that he also sits atop the Secret Service as well as the wide open border. Is there anything else you can do about it to hold Alejandro Mayorkas to account?
The only way people are going to be held accountable for all the bad behavior, for all the cover-ups, for all the obstruction in the Biden-Harris administration is for people to go out on Tuesday and vote for Donald Trump so that we can drain the swamp and that we can put good people in office that will abide by the Constitution and hold the people accountable for wrongdoing.